different kind of look at life. There are many different roads and many different curves. Some are cliffs and some are straight roads. And it's a question of how you deal.
New accusations have ignited the royal world, suggesting Sarah Ferguson carried on a secret romance with an American man while she was pregnant, and the claims are far more explosive than anyone expected. Behind the scenes, rumors of private meetings, hidden letters, and forbidden encounters are resurfacing, threatening to upend everything people believed about her past. Palace insiders are shocked, and the public is scrambling for answers. So, could this stunning revelation finally expose the real story behind one of the monarchy's most disputed chapters? Stay with us, because the fallout is only beginning. The marriage designed as a distraction. Sarah Ferguson's arrival into royal life was dramatic, entering during a period of turmoil and uncertainty. The monarchy was navigating one of its most fragile moments. The marriage between King Charles and Princess Diana was visibly falling apart, casting a dark cloud over the institution. Into that tension stepped Ferguson, whose selection as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's bride seemed shaped just as much by strategy as by love. Her energetic personality, relatable charm, and natural magnetism were exactly what the palace needed, a young and lively presence capable of pulling public focus away from growing scandal.
I'm the generational bridge because I'm still very young, in case you hadn't realized. Yeah, exactly.
Injecting vitality into an institution long defined by formality and restraint, Ferguson immediately captured the attention of both the public and the press, radiating warmth and approachability, her laughter genuine, her gestures natural yet irresistibly human. Wedding day photographs conveyed joy and spontaneity, a stark contrast to the meticulously staged images the monarchy typically projected. The public was enchanted by her freshness, energy, and openness, a duchess who seemed authentic, unburdened by the rigid expectations of palace life. Yet behind the gilded doors, her presence stirred tension. The palace, steeped in centuries of protocol and quiet authority, struggled to accommodate her candid style. Her humor often judged too casual, fashion choices too daring, and her appetite for attention far beyond what the institution allowed. Ferguson's most appealing traits, warmth, friendliness, and natural charm, also became significant challenges within royal life. Her vibrant, open personality instantly won public admiration, but clashed sharply with an institution built on silence, caution, and unwavering self-discipline. Long stretches of Prince Andrew's naval postings left her wandering the expansive, ornate halls of royal estates, isolated and deprived of meaningful companionship. The monarchy expected a poised, reserved duchess who quietly fit into centuries of tradition, but Ferguson was born for laughter, expression, and living vividly. From her first steps into royal society, the tension was unmistakable. A lively, spirited woman trapped in a gilded cage, struggling to reconcile her freedom-loving nature with the strict expectations surrounding her.
And we went into this nightclub, and she was very good as her.
This phase of Ferguson's life, from the dazzling wedding day to her early challenges within palace walls, set the stage for a storm that would later engulf her. She was a woman unsuited to silence. Entering a world defined by restraint, her charm, unpolished energy, and refusal to fade into the background foreshadowed conflicts that would later erupt into public scandals. She was admired, envied, and quietly rebuked in equal measure. The clash between her personality and the institution laid the groundwork for one of the most captivating and turbulent chapters in modern royal history, a chapter that exposed the limits of tradition when faced with uncontainable charisma. Sarah's wedding was designed to distract the world from royal troubles, but did it truly succeed, or did it ignite a storm far exceeding the image the monarchy hoped to preserve? The turning point came when Ferguson met American businessman Steve Wyatt, an encounter that would forever change the trajectory of her life. Unlike the stiff, formal figures that dominated her royal days, Wyatt radiated warmth, confidence, and a relaxed ease entirely unaffected by her title. He recognized her as a person, not a public image, offering the attention, understanding, and companionship she had long been denied during Prince Andrew's prolonged absences. In a world constrained by rigid protocol and expectation, Wyatt became a rare sanctuary, a place where she could simply exist, free from judgment and restriction. Their connection sparked quickly, evolving from casual conversation into something far deeper and emotionally charged. Sources indicate Ferguson found in Wyatt the reassurance she had long sought, someone who acknowledged her feelings and truly valued her individuality.
I do. I love tea. Now, I'm from the South, though. We like sweet tea on ice.
Wyatt treated her with a human warmth that had been missing from her isolated life behind palace walls. The emotional bond they formed was no fleeting fancy. It quickly evolved into a romantic connection. Even as Ferguson carried her second child, Princess Eugenie, in that delicate state where vulnerability and longing were heightened, Wyatt became both a confidant and a sanctuary, offering a closeness and understanding that the Duchess had long struggled to find within her marriage. As their relationship deepened, whispers and rumors began circulating. The press, ever eager for scandal, noted Ferguson's sudden companionship with Wyatt and speculated about the nature of their closeness. For the palace, these rumors were alarming, but a single photograph turned speculation into public outrage. Wyatt was pictured with young Princess Beatrice, Ferguson's first child, in an image that made headlines worldwide, sending a message no words could soften. Ferguson had introduced her child into the orbit of a man outside the royal family, breaching unspoken codes of royal conduct. That image sent shockwaves through the monarchy, turning subtle tension into a full-blown crisis, leaving her marriage exposed and fragile. The photograph acted as a catalyst, transforming whispered gossip into front-page news and accelerating the unraveling of her relationship with Prince Andrew. The foundations of her early married life, already weakened by distance, isolation, and incompatible expectations, began to crumble. This turning point highlighted not only the vulnerability and longing that drove Ferguson's choices but also set the stage for even greater disasters to come, marking the moment when private desire collided with public scrutiny and exposing just how precarious her position had become. In an instant, the Duchess's personal world and royal obligations clashed, foreshadowing a scandal that would resonate for decades and forever define her place in modern royal history. Reports suggested that Ferguson had an affair with an American businessman while pregnant with her second child, raising questions of justification and public acceptance. Behind the bright smiles captured by photographers and carefully staged appearances, Ferguson navigated a world defined by absence, rigid protocols, and relentless scrutiny. Prince Andrew's naval career required him to be away for months at a time, leaving the Duchess alone in the vast corridors of royal estates, surrounded by expectations she had never faced before. The palace, steeped in centuries of tradition and hierarchy, offered little warmth to those who did not perfectly conform. Ferguson's vivacious personality, once celebrated outside, became a source of friction within, as her energy and openness clashed with the quiet discipline demanded by the monarchy. Isolation soon became the rhythm of her life, settling over her days like a heavy fog. Her husband's visits were rare and painfully brief, mere weeks scattered across the year, during which she longed for closeness, comfort, and a sense of belonging. Yet royal rules tightened around her like invisible chains. She was barred from accompanying Andrew on many of his postings, denied shared experiences that might have softened the growing emotional gap. Instead, silence and distance filled the spaces where connection should have existed. Even the simplest expressions of independence were questioned, restricted, or quietly forbidden. The Duchess, naturally lively and full of spirit, quickly realized she was living inside an invisible cage constructed of strict rules and rigid expectations, where every move she made and every word she spoke was scrutinized under the unblinking gaze of tradition.
Yes. And would he come and visit you in the flat in Clapham?
Lavender Garden.
Every action Ferguson took was scrutinized and magnified under the palace's unyielding gaze, turning minor missteps into public offences. Prince Philip's disapproval added yet another layer of pressure, a constant reminder of the heavy weight of tradition and the critical importance of preserving the monarchy's image. Even seemingly trivial gestures by Ferguson were interpreted as breaches of decorum, intensifying her restlessness and emotional deprivation. While the public remained captivated by the Duchess's charm, the private reality was starkly different. The palace demanded invisibility and unwavering compliance, expecting her to vanish into a world of silent obedience. Yet Ferguson, by nature, resisted such confinement. Her spirited energy, once celebrated in the press, repeatedly clashed with the rigid rules of royal life, creating invisible but expanding cracks in her emotional foundation. These early experiences of loneliness, restriction, and the pressure to suppress her identity planted the seeds for future turbulence. They highlight the psychological strains that shaped Ferguson's choices, exposed her vulnerabilities, and ultimately set the stage for the controversies that would come to define her public life.
Wit? Charm?
Yes, probably.
Yes.
And the rest.
In the shadows of formal dinners and carefully staged photographs, the Duchess's inner turmoil simmered, a quiet storm ready to erupt. Examining the gap between appearances and reality reveals the emotional terrain behind the glamour, showing how isolation, unmet needs, and institutional pressure left Ferguson both exposed and vulnerable to the scandals that would later shock the world. She struggled with the loneliness of her husband's prolonged absences and the rigid constraints of royal rules. But what happened when she glimpsed freedom beyond the palace walls? And how did the royal family respond to her choices? The scandal that shook the world and ignited royal fury centered on the infamous topless holiday photographs and the toe-sucking images that exploded across newspapers, magazines, and television screens globally, sending shockwaves through both the royal household and the public. These pictures humiliated Ferguson in ways few could have imagined, striking at the core of an institution built on centuries of discretion, composure, and meticulously managed appearances. Once celebrated for her warmth and approachable charm, the Duchess suddenly became a magnet for scrutiny, ridicule, and relentless public condemnation. What should have remained a private, dignified separation from Prince Andrew instead erupted into an international spectacle, leaving no aspect untouched by scandal or gossip. The fallout was swift and severe. Reports indicate that the Queen was deeply saddened by the images, viewing them as both a personal and institutional betrayal, while Prince Philip expressed his fury in a sharply worded letter, emphasizing the unprecedented humiliation faced by the family. For Sarah Ferguson, the repercussions were profound, forever altering her public image and the trajectory of her life.
And we went into this nightclub, and she was very good as her
Her once lively and approachable public persona became inseparable from scandal and controversy, with tabloid headlines sensationalizing every detail and magnifying her missteps, transforming the Duchess into a figure of international ridicule. The humiliation extended far beyond the images themselves, as Ferguson's life after her divorce grew increasingly complicated, marked by financial struggles, questionable business ventures, and associations that drew even more public scrutiny. Sources indicate she often relied on dubious allies, and her attempts to navigate life outside royal protection frequently sparked further controversies. Adding to her troubles was the lingering shadow of her connection to Jeffrey Epstein, which periodically resurfaced, reigniting media attention and further tarnishing her reputation. In the years following her separation, Ferguson's life unfolded as a series of missteps under the relentless glare of public attention. Every decision, from personal relationships to attempts at independence, was scrutinized without mercy. Once admired for her warmth and charm, she became a cautionary figure, embodying the risks of fame without discretion in the unforgiving realm of royalty. Financial setbacks, social blunders, and emotional struggles were magnified by the media, turning private hardships into a global spectacle and illustrating how visibility can both elevate and devastate. This period ultimately defined Ferguson's post-marriage existence, highlighting the stark contrast between her early charisma and the turbulent reality she faced after leaving Prince Andrew. The topless holiday photos and toe-sucking scandal were not merely embarrassing incidents. They were transformative moments that irrevocably altered public perception. Her life, once vibrant and celebrated, became emblematic of royal vulnerability, human error, and the devastating consequences when personal choices collide with institutional expectations. The chapter illuminates not only the scale of the humiliation but also the enduring repercussions that shaped Ferguson's trajectory in the decades that followed. Sarah paid a heavy price for her scandalous images, but how deep was her affair with Steve Wyatt, and what do analysts make of the saga? Biographer Lee emphasized that Wyatt played a pivotal role in the unraveling of Ferguson's marriage to Prince Andrew. While Andrew had once been her closest confidant and remained loyal even after their separation, Wyatt occupied a far more profound place in her heart. He was not merely a companion but, in Lee's words, the love of her life. Their connection was intense, immediate, and deeply personal, a stark contrast to the distant, duty-bound relationship she had endured within the royal household. Lee's accounts also revealed a detail that shocked many. Ferguson had introduced Wyatt to her eldest daughter, a gesture that underscored the seriousness of their relationship and highlighted how deeply entwined Wyatt had become in her private life. It was not a fleeting romance or casual dalliance, but a bond that reshaped her emotional world, offering attention, understanding, and companionship that had long been denied. Within the rigid confines of royal expectation, Wyatt represented freedom, affection, and human warmth, qualities often absent in Ferguson's royal existence. Yet even as this affair added colour and passion to her life, it brought consequences. Sources familiar with Ferguson's current situation painted a stark and unsettling picture. A report from Radar Online in October 2025 suggested she faced profound isolation, with few allies willing to publicly support her. "People don't want to be associated with her anymore," a source explained. "The truth is that she has nowhere to go and no one to turn to. Her future is hanging in the balance." These words reveal a striking juxtaposition, a woman once thrust into global attention now confronting the uncertainty and fragility of her social and financial position.
How right she was. And today we talk about Lisa Marie. We look at Priscilla.
A woman who had once been thrust into the global spotlight now faced uncertainty and the fragility of her social and financial standing. Viewed through the lens of Steve Wyatt's influence, Ferguson's life illustrates how personal connections can both elevate and destabilize. As Wyatt provided her refuge from the loneliness imposed by Andrew's long naval postings, the suffocating palace rules, and the relentless gaze of the public and press. Yet the very relationship that offered emotional sustenance also became a source of controversy, rumor, and lasting scrutiny, revealing for the world the vulnerabilities and contradictions that defined Ferguson's existence. The tension between personal desire and public expectation, loyalty to family versus the pursuit of emotional fulfillment. The saga of Ferguson and Wyatt demonstrates how one private choice can explode into lifelong consequences. Andrew offered steady companionship, but Wyatt delivered the passion she craved, something the rigid monarchy could never accept.